I just got back from a used bookstore with a whole lot of used books. Yes, I have a problem of buying too many books. Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today is another video of my obsession, my problem. I buy a lot of books, more books than I can realistically read, but I do like collecting used paperback books. And this shopping trip was inspired by a number of recent videos of everyone showing off their DAW science fiction and fantasy paperbacks in the yellow covers. I have already made a video of all the DAWs that I owned, but these videos that I made and that I've been watching got me to consider a used bookstore in Manassas, Virginia, where I get most of my used paperbacks, and I said I should really scour the shelves for all those DAW paperbacks that I often overlook. So I went out in the morning and specifically went to this used bookstore to find all the DAW paperbacks that they had. Most of these paperbacks are relatively cheap, so I don't mind buying a cheap paperback if I'm never going to read it, because I can collect it, I can show it, maybe I can give some of these books away. Actually, I know that I'm going to be giving some of these books away, but you will have to wait till the end of the video to find out what they are. So as I said, my mission was to buy DAW paperbacks in the yellow spine. I did get some other paperbacks, and I will show those at the end of my DAW books. But most of this video will be showing you some more DAW paperbacks. Now, I'm going to try something a little bit different with the angle of my camera. I saw another channel do this, where I will not be on the video. I'm just going to be showing you the books that I bought. I am going to try it for this video. Let me know if you like this as a way to show you the books that I purchase, or do you really just want me holding up books as I talk about them with my face on the camera? Let me know in the comments. Okay, we have Marian Zimmer Bradley, Hunters of the Red Moon. This is not a dark over novel, and this was published, I believe, in 1972. It does contain the illustrations, and this one is O-bar or G-bar. I can't quite read the story. I did read this in high school. It is about people stranded on a planet having to struggle to survive. This cost me $1.05. And such a lovely old cover. And you can see it has an older sticker from somewhere else where it used to cost $4. Cost me $1.05. And now we're going into the darkover novels. Again, Marian Zimmer Bradley, The Heritage of Hester. Marian Zimmer Bradley is now considered a problematic author. She apparently let her husband sexually abuse their daughter. But at one time, she was a very popular science fiction fantasy author. I'm not exactly sure where the darkover novels fit in. In this used bookstore, they have science fiction and fantasy separated. So I pulled from Bradley in both science fiction and fantasy, and that created a mistake on my part. And you'll see that in a little bit later of the chapter. And who do we have? We have an illustrator. It does not say the illustrator's name. I'm not good enough to name them. And this cost me a whopping 78 cents. The spine is beautiful. It's a teeny bit discolored, but not a lot. But looks like it's never been read. And I've never read a darkover novel. I should probably start reading some. Because, lo and behold, The Shattered Chain, a darkover novel. A nice giant bird with a bloody beak. This one was $1.20. I'm not going to go bothering with the stories on the description. I don't think they really matter, but let's look at the inside cover, illustration, and then this is a G bar and an O bar. Let me pull this up really close. See if I can figure what that is. It looks like a letter G bar. The Forbidden Tower, a Darkover novel. This was all of 80 cents. Again, very good condition. This is a different illustrator on the inside. Again, I'm not good on illustrations, but a novel has never been read. The Survivors by Marian Zimmer Bradley, and I guess that was her husband, Paul Edward Zimmer. This is a sequel to The Hunters for the Red Moon. I have never read the sequel, but I did read The Hunters of the Red Moon in high school. And you got this old card where you used to get any 4 books for 10 cents with membership. Science Fiction Book Club. 99 cents. Does this have an illustration? Yeah, of course it has an illustration. Two to Conquer, a Darkover novel. $1.20. A little bit of browning on the pages. I can't find the illustration. The Keeper's Price by Marian Zimmer Bradley and the Friends of Darkover. Open this up to the page. You will see an illustration. And this is a collection of short stories by Marian Zimmer Bradley and a number of different authors. I'm trying to look over their shoulder. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't. Shara's Exile, a Darkover novel. Where is the price tag on this? I guess I used that one. $1.50. Big spending for a Darkover novel. No illustration. But again, pretty new or in good condition paperback. Hawk Mistress with an exclamation point. $1.20. Oh, someone's Ex Libra stamp. And there you have an illustration. I don't recognize the author. Or not the author, the illustrator. Marian Zimmer Bradley presents Greyhaven, an anthology of fantasy. $1.50. I don't think this is a Darkover novel. It does not say so. You have your illustration. It says an anthology of fantasy, edited by Marian Zimmer Bradley. And there we have all the short stories. You have one by Marian Zimmer Bradley, Dana L. Passion, Joe Hagan, and some other people as well. The names are not standing out as easily recognizable. At the very bottom, you see Paul Edwin Zimmer. Again, I think that was her husband who abused his own daughter. Marian Zimmer Bradley and the Friends of Darkover. Swords of Chaos. $1.80. This one has some funky pages. They're not cut properly. But otherwise, it looks like an unread paperback. And you have your illustration. And you have your list of contributing authors. Some of these look like the authors that are in the other short story editions that I have just shown. And that's all the Marian Zimmer Bradley I collected for my DAWs. The Light That Never Was by Lloyd Biggle Jr. I am not at all familiar with this author. It cost me a whopping 75 cents. A lot of the cover, part of the cover is concealed by a lot of the description is concealed by the sticker, but it looks like a science fiction novel featuring some art critics and art creation. Again, I don't know this author. It looks a little faded on the side. It does have a picture of some sort of mule with a paintbrush in his mouth painting a lady. I don't recognize the artist. And this is from 1972. Has anybody read anything by Lloyd Biggle Jr.? Joe Clayton, Star Hunters, a novel of the diadem. $1.05. Joe Clayton was a pretty popular author back in the 80s when I was in high school. I don't think I ever read anything by her. I'm assuming it's a her. And I don't see an illustration. Maeve by Joe Clayton, a novel of the diadem. 80 cents. Still, this one has some cracking on the spine. It has been read. Ah, there we go. An illustration, some sort of bug, and this is from 1979. Moongatherer by Joe Clayton, the first of a great fantasy trilogy by the author of the Diadem novels. $1.48. Now, it says the cover artist is Ken Kelly. I keep hearing that name mentioned a lot with DAW. This was originally published in 1982. Moon's Catter, second novel of the Duel of Sorcery. $1.48. Decent condition. I don't think this has been read, or it may have been read. Yeah, it has been read a little bit, but very carefully. The way I probably would have read it. Oh, look at that little title page. Has some wandering O's. A map. But no illustration. Okay, this is not a yellow spine DAW, but it's still DAWs. I have read The Cuckoo's Egg, probably in the early aughts, but this book was $1.40. How could I say no? And let's look for illustrations, and no illustrations. And that was not Clayton. That was C.J. Cherryh. Another C.J. Cherryh. Chanar's Venture. Again, DAW, but not the yellow paperback. $1.20. It has a bit of the cover torn off, which is a shame. It does not look like it's otherwise been read. You have a map, and you have an illustration. C.J. Cherryh, Port Eternity. $1.20. This looks like it is an Arthur retelling. Their names were Lancelot, Elaine, Percival, Gawain, and Milord, Lynette, and Vivian. Is it? Well, with a name like Lancelot, it has to be an Arthur retelling. 120. No illustrations. The Crystals of Mida by Sharon Green, Jalab, Amazon Warrior #1. That lady's getting the best of that man. This was $1.20. I remember people talking about Sharon Green along the same lines as John Norman. And you all know the notorious John Norman and his gore books. I have never read this, but again, I was just buying all of the DAWs that were available at the used bookstore. I do not see an illustration. Andre Norton, Here Abide Monsters. A whopping 90 cents. I have not read this Andre Norton book before. It has an illustration, and it seems like people have been transported to some sort of fantasy land with monsters. Andre Norton, Horn Crown, the new Witch World novel. I remember Witch World was her big series, or one of her big series. This cost me $1.20. I don't know where it fits in the Witch World series. It does have a picture of a panther man and a lady, originally published in 1981. And what's curious, look down here. For color prints of Horn Crown and other Michael Whalen cover paintings, please contact. And there is an address in Connecticut. I wonder what would happen if I contacted him now, since this was published in 1981. Probably a return to sender. Okay, you knew this had to be coming. Marauders of Gore, because I'm buying all the DAW Yellow Spine paperbacks, and I have a bit of the Gore novels, but not all of them. But you know, $2.99. Yeah, the Gore novels are a bit pricier than the others, but it's only $2.99. So who really cares? You have a nice Viking type ship as the illustration. And then you have Beasts of Gore with a wonderful ice dragon and an Eskimo. Although it's not really an Eskimo. Yeah, $2.99. Okay, those are my nearly complete DAW books. As I said earlier, they separated out science fiction and fantasy, and I picked books from both sections. And I wound up with some duplicates. I have 2 copies of The Shattered Chain, a Darkover novel, $1.20. If you are a DAW collector and you live in the United States, you can drop me a message in the comments, and I will send you The Shattered Chain. You can exchange another paperback for it if you have something I want, but it's not a requirement. I'm just going to be giving this away to someone who is collecting the Yellow Spine DAW paperbacks and doesn't have that one. I also got a second copy of The Keeper's Price. Same deal. If you live in the United States, I will send it to you or trade it to you. I'm saying the United States because shipping overseas is way more expensive than $1.20. And that is the end of my DAW paperbacks, but not the end of the books that I bought on this trip. Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End. I have read this book a few times, but at $1.99, I decided to pick up this near perfect paperback copy. Tongues of the Moon by Philip Jose Farmer. I am more familiar with Farmer's River World series, but he wrote a lot of science fiction, and he used to be very popular. This is a very nice old paperback that only cost me 75 cents. And on the back it says, man had colonized the planets and lost his birthright. Civilization was a lonely chain of space stations linked by terror. Someday. Chaining the Lady by Piers Anthony, the second in the Cluster trilogy. She's basically naked on the cover with some sort of alien. This cost me $1.20. I have not read the Cluster trilogy, but I do own the Cluster, the first book in the Cluster trilogy, so I decided I had to pick it up, especially since they have Carlin Quest by Piers Anthony, the final novel in the Cluster trilogy, and that also cost me $1.20. So maybe I need to put this Cluster trilogy on my to-read list. There you go. Put it in order. They're fun old paperbacks, and they have these covers that are wraparound that you don't see so much anymore, or not at all, and I really love these wraparound covers. Silver Pigs by Lindsay Davis. This is a detective novel in ancient Rome. I'm pretty sure I read this book. This is the first of a series, but 85 cents. I had to pick it up. Harlan Ellison, Spider Kiss. These Ace paperbacks used to be so common when I was in high school. He had lots of collections of short stories. This one cost me $2.99. This is a complete novel, and it used to be called Rockabilly. It's about rock and roll. But it's Harlan Ellison, so I had to pick it up. It's in great condition for its age. And now, finally, we're getting into some literary books. We have John O'Hara's The Cape Cod Lighter. This is 23 news stories by John O'Hara. I have read John O'Hara's Appointment in Samara. That is a great novel. But at 75 cents, I can pick up some of his short stories for sure. And last, I got 9 stories by J.D. Salinger. This cost me $1.99. I did have to read a Salinger short story when I was a junior at university. It was okay. I have not read any other Salinger. I have not read The Catcher in the Rye, even though I should, even though I think it's a book intended for younger people. But my friend Book Chat at Pat keeps saying how great that novel is, The Catcher in the Rye. I do have a copy of Catcher in the Rye on my shelf, so I'm going to have to try Catcher in the Rye someday, even though I think maybe I'm too old, or maybe just pick up some of Salinger's short stories. Okay, those are all the paperbacks that I purchased on this trip to McKay's used bookstore in Manassas, Virginia. I spent a total of $48.82. Not too bad for what I got. How about you? What are you buying at used bookstores? Show us your hauls. Show us your DAW science fiction paperbacks if you can get some. Thank you. for watching, and keep on reading and buying old paperback books.